Howdy, whole heads. Kurt Money here, alongside my co-host,
Kateline.
And hang on, I gotta plug a code in real quick. Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. Because we gotta go back to the vault. This is a From the Vault app, everybody.
From the vault.
They're rerunning something that we've already covered. It's the Faith lady that had her boyfriend of 30 years that they kissed at the Eiffel Tower or whatever.
Oh, sure.
And Jamie, the dude who had like flat Stanleys and did dog betting on the computer. Remember this?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah. It's a J-Man classic.
He wore Hawaiian shirts and gold chains. Oh, he wasn't missing a beat.
But anyway, we already done did it, y'all. So if you want to hear our thoughts on that one, go check it out. This time, we're going way back, 2016. Season 24, episode 48, Rear Window. Now, I'll get your thoughts here in a sec, but first, Kate, it's time for that IMDb. Remember when you did this? Holt heads who don't belong to the Patreon, Kate did this part on this week's Patreon episodes. It was pretty wild. A little plug for the Patreon, right, Kate?
I did it flawlessly.
She sure did. Okay. Florida, 1998. Corey Parker, a student and waitress, is stabbed more than 100 times in her home. The brutality of the crime points to someone who knows her. Says the idiot detective in this case. Anyway, sorry, that's a little editorializing. The brutality of the crime points to someone who knows her, but the closest suspects seem to check out. Or do they? Hosted by AC.
Here's Andrea Canning.
What'd you think of this, baby?
I remember this one.
Same.
I've seen it a few times.
Yep.
I like it. It's got some fun stuff in it. And I'm still not sure what I think, even though I've seen it many times.
What? Are you... No, okay, don't... No. You're not telling me that for the second week in a row, you're not sure the guy did it. Is that what you're telling me right now?
That is not really what I'm telling you, but I feel like we're missing information about other suspects.
Okay. All right. I mean, look, last week, by the end of the ep, I may have said, you know what, Kate, you might be right. Maybe Panky's innocent, but I don't care. Still lock him up. Mm-hmm. But I don't see that happening with this one. So I guess we'll get into it. Please don't tell me you think Tiffany did it.
No.
Okay. We were about to really throw down because I got a lot to think about that suspect coming up. I was steamed at the detectives in this one a little. This was, we open up and we're in like the Everglades or something. It's Florida. We're straight up in Florida. Why are you looking at me like that?
It's Jacksonville
Beach. But I thought the guy who has the drinks and stuff with the guy, the opening scene, is that on Jacksonville Beach? It looked like it was in some sort of swampy area. Is that wrong?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
But it is not the Everglades.
Okay. Boy, what a fucking mistake that was. I can't tell you how much I regret saying that, the look that Kate had just bestowed on me.
Well, for a second I was like, wait, are we talking about the right episode?
We've been to the Everglades. That's where the guy got his dick burned off. Remember that?
Yeah. Murph Dog knows every inch of Florida roads.
Sure does. But this was an AC joint. And I love the opening VO that AC did because it was like, maybe it was this. Or maybe it was the booze.
Maybe it was the hypnotic hum of night coming to life. Then again, maybe it was just the booze.
There's some dudes that are like kicking back, they're fishing, they're drinking beers in the water, and they all remember this case that happened long ago. And this was a straight up Keith line. This was Keith inspired when she goes,
strange how the night can shine a light into the darkest places.
Boom.
Boom.
How about that? That was a Keith-esque.
Eloquent.
Loved it. But this story is about the death of a young Corey Parker who was 25 years old. She came to Jacksonville Beach like everybody else for the waves and the weather.
Corey Parker came to Florida for the waves and weather.
So before we get to the incident, we do the background first, right? We really talk about who Corey was as a person. Now, tell me you were feeling how AC described that she was tall and beautiful.
She was described as basically a supermodel. She wasn't one, but she could have been if she wanted to be.
Okay, this is what AC says, towering and sweet, like a sugar maple. Wow.
Man, she was on one, huh?
Yeah, these are three bangers right out the gate. I mean, we're talking less than a minute in hearing this.
Towering and sweet, like a sugar maple.
She's going to Jacksonville College, and she's also a waitress, and she had just moved into her own place. We meet a few of her friends, like an Amy and an Ashley who lived across the way. Corey was scared she lived on the first floor of an apartment, and she was scared about the safety of that. And on top of that, there was a peeping Tom doing some creeping, and so she would only hang out on one side of her house.
She would spend all of her time way in the back of the apartment, in the kitchen, where there wasn't as much visibility from the street. And this is just one of the many things that we women folk have to deal with when we're living alone. It is nice to be on the second or third or higher floor.
Yeah.
But what if you don't want to be? And
Yeah.
I know in places like Japan, they often recommend that women be on higher floors. Otherwise, their underwear will get stolen off their laundry line.
Oh my God. Mm-hmm. Men are the worst. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, AC goes there with the 2 detectives that were on this case, and they're talking about how it's like a lot of transients walk by. It's like a few blocks from the beach, right?
Yeah, very walkable.
But she had some friends there. Her friend Ashley next door lived with her mom and brother, and she had friends from work. She was like a waitress at a restaurant. I forget the name of it. It's the night before Thanksgiving, and she's like baking some goods for work because she's going to go over to a friend's house or something the next day to party for Thanksgiving. Once she's done with the baked goods, she goes out with some friends. But she kind of calls it an easy night. She leaves the bar with her friend Tiffany at about 1:30 a.m.
I love that that's an easy night. That's like you know what, I'm not going to rage tonight. I'm going to call it in. We're going to pack it in early, 1:30. To me, that's that's insane.
Yeah, and her friend Tiffany got a ride, so I bet she was wasted. But she drove, too, so, I mean, God, I'll tell you what I couldn't imagine. Being at a bar until 1:30 in the morning sober. Hell no.
Hell no.
That sounds terrible.
No.
So she goes home, and she was supposedly going over to her friend's house for Thanksgiving, but it's already Friday morning. This is Black Friday. She's not showing up for work. People are worried. One of the guys at the restaurant decides to swing over to her place to see if she's there. He goes there and knocks and stuff. No answer. Goes back to work. The boss says, no. Go back there and get in there, which I thought was a good move.
Mm-hmm. They knew her car was there. They knew she had to be home. Something was wrong.
Yeah.
Go back and find out.
Yeah.
So he tells the landlord. And the landlord is like, oh, snap, for real?
Wait, hang on. Real quick. Sorry. You're trying to talk about what he found in the window, right?
Yeah.
Hold, please. So the boss sends him back and says, find out what's going on, which he does. But I got a question for you, Kate. Look, it's 98. We're not as, schooled in Datelines in 98. I would be going with another person. I'm not going back to this scene alone because you're going to be the person who found him. What do you think?
Yeah, in theory.
In theory, okay. He goes over there, he looks in the window. Was the kitchen window open or broken or something?
I don't know that he discovered that.
He saw a bloody foot. What's going on here? He saw a bloody foot in the window.
In her bedroom window.
Oh, okay. All right. Say it then. Go for it.
Well, you're missing the part about the landlord.
What landlord part?
He goes back and he's not alone because the landlord is there and he tells him what's going on and that they can't get a hold of her. And the landlord is like, oh, that's crazy. And so both of them, they go around and they look in a window and they can see her bloody foot in the bed. It's her bedroom window. So the coworker rushes back to work and the landlord calls the cops.
Now look, Kate, I was wrong about what room the window was in. I'm not sure landlord was mentioned, okay? This is where you throw me off here. I apologize. A little rocky start and a shorty here. But I don't remember there being a landlord at all. What do you think?
I think there was.
Find out. Future Kurt, hop in here. Future Kurt here. Oh man, Kate was really going hard on the landlord. And I am here from the future with all the answers to let her and current Kurt know that, Caitlin, you couldn't be more wrong. There is not a single mention of a landlord anywhere in this episode. Let me repeat that again, Caitlin, in case you didn't hear this. There was no landlord, so you bringing it up is funny, and just, future Kurt's here cracking up, and he wants to let current Kurt know, hey dude, you're perfect, you nailed it, no landlord, back to it. Okay, so yeah, he goes back to work, they call the cops, and the cops show up, and that's when they get in there, and the neighbors hear him go, oh, there she is.
And I heard what, they had said, there she is. And I just fell to my knees.
She had been stabbed to death. It's weird. This is way harder without a 911. It's like I have a way I say the stuff for episodes. Mm-hmm. And when there's a 911 call, I know I've got my first goal in mind. Get to that 911 and set Kate up. But without it, I'm like flailing over here, Kate. So I apologize.
Well,
okay?
the cops come. They are called, and they come, and they find her kitchen window has been broken into. She is in her bed with 101 stab wounds.
Yeah.
A brutal murder.
Absolutely. So now it's spreading to the family, and her friend Amy had gotten a call from Corey's boyfriend. Like, did you hear what happened to her? What happened to her? What happened to her? They say she's dead. And Amy's like, it can't be. I just talked to her yesterday. which was Thanksgiving, and she did not talk to her that day, correct? We haven't heard from her since Wednesday night.
Correct.
Okay, so that's interesting. But anyway, everybody's finding out and everybody's freaking. And the cops, right away, they're thinking it's got to be somebody who knew her because of how brutal it was. Now, I don't buy that.
No.
That's not true enough and not the other way around. I feel like you can't use that as a guideline.
I feel like cops say that because they feel like it's such an intimate way to kill someone. But that doesn't mean that they knew them. It just means that they're extremely violent.
Yeah, and it could be that they were really pissed off, or it could mean that they're a psychopath and they're in berserker mode. And they're like, wow, I really like what I'm doing right now. Mm-hmm. And that's why they go crazy with it.
Or they knew her, but she didn't know them.
Okay. Yeah. So they're looking around. They did get plenty of fingerprints in the house. And they found like a hair on a sock, and which will come up later. But they get swabs and stuff for DNA, but this is back in the day where it was in the infancy, right? Like it's taken a while to get stuff. So they first look at the boyfriend. Can't be him because he's out of town.
He was out of town.
So boyfriend, not even, this is only mentioned in the episode too. So they don't talk to him or anything. He's off the list. So then it turns to the guy who lived next door. This was her friend Ashley's brother. And he had a shaky alibi because he was home, but he couldn't say specifically what he was doing. He was sleeping or whatever. And this is when they really kind of go hard on him because they find this hair on a sock. And again, it didn't have like the pulp or whatever. Like you could not get DNA off this hair at this point. Like they could only do rudimentary like comparisons with a microscope. And it's probably the same color as this brother. And the cops say, why's your hair on her sock, bro?
And he's like, well, I don't know because it's not. There's no way that it would be.
Yeah. And I just, in hindsight, like knowing what we know now, this is where it begins where I'm mad at the cops. Because they're coming in with these lies where it's like, what would you expect? If someone told me, the cop is like, why is your hair on her sock? I'd believe them that it was my hair because they're the police and stuff. But it's just a dupe. It's a straight up dupe to get him talking. Luckily, he holds strong and he gets, this guy's name was Eric. He gives him DNA and blood swabs and stuff. Wait, that was not Eric. I forget the f***ing brother's name. Forget it.
Kurt, don't get mad.
I'm mad at me. So the brother, they get info from him and release him. Next up was this weirdo that she worked with named Eric. Ugh. Now, we hear interrogations with this guy, and I've got beefs here, but Kate, I want to hear what you thought about Eric.
Eric is so creepy. He is absolutely obsessed and admits that he's obsessed with her. And
okay,
it wasn't his first time becoming hyper fixated on a girl. It sounds like he's just really, really bad at relationship type stuff. And he was constantly trying to get her to hang out with him and do stuff. And what he did around Thanksgiving was so cringe. He wanted to spend Thanksgiving with her, but instead of asking her, he went ahead and made a full Thanksgiving dinner and then called her and asked if she would want to come over and eat it with him on Thanksgiving when people already have plans.
Yeah. It was not a smart idea. And I agree it's cringe. I just think the cops and AC in this moment are kind of blowing stuff out of proportion, Kate. I don't like making it anyway. I could get it in his weird mind. He thinks he's being romantic or whatever. It's weird. It's definitely weird, but I don't think it's creepy. He still gets to eat the food. And also, she wasn't even home on Thanksgiving.
Kurt?
What's that?
This man terrified me. Agree to disagree.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Did you think... I thought... was it the interrogation stuff?
He was very creepy in the interrogation. Yeah, he was fully admitting that he was obsessed with her. Now, the method of their questioning was uncalled for because they were fully coercing him to say things.
Yeah.
But he still said them. I don't think he did it. I don't. But the fact that they were like explaining and describing the manner of her death and then asking him what kind of person could do that and if he felt like he could do it or what you'd have to be thinking in your head in order to do that. And he tells them what he thinks. He says like, yeah, someone would have to be, I forget, pretty angry or pretty whatever. And he basically lays it out of how and why someone would want to kill her.
Okay.
But I know he didn't do it. It's just
He didn't lay it out either. They set him up. They basically gave him Mad Libs of what they wanted him to say, I feel. I'm not defending this guy because he did say this stuff, but I think because he's not smart. I think.
Well, he's clearly not smart, because I'm thinking, I know he didn't do it, but what idiot would say all of these things if they didn't do it? Someone who's not smart, clearly.
And we've seen this a bunch too, where people say stuff. I mean, what about our boy Chris? R.I.P. Chris. He agreed to it. It's because here's my problem. All we hear is a snippet of it from these cops, and the things that they're saying are like, this was the setup to when he said, basically the show is like, oh, Eric said that he fantasized about rape. He did say those words, but it's set up like the cops like, so if somebody wanted to do something to her and they wouldn't get busted, what do you think that person would want to do? Something like that.
And then he said, oh, you mean like go into her house and like rape her and stuff?
Yeah.
And they were like, yes. And I agree.
Exactly.
They were setting him up to say that.
Tell me the things that you think about doing with women that you wouldn't do because you know it's not the right thing to do.
I mean, like take them into a bedroom and rape them?
Yeah.
That's the first time. And then the second one is this cop, he goes, yeah, I was obsessed. I was a little obsessed. And the other detective goes, oh, you were so obsessed. My God.
You were greatly obsessed, Eric. Jesus. What? My God.
I was obsessed.
This is what happened to our boy Chris, our other Chris, from episode 2. Remember the dude in the closet that didn't see it? And his A&W and stuff? You remember that cop tried to do it to him, where it's like, come on, you know you were there.
Begin by telling the truth.
Tell the truth.
And no doubt it's painful.
He goes, okay, I was obsessed. I feel like he's just being honest with them because they want him to say it so bad. I don't know. I'm not that. What's up, Kate? What's up with me right now?
I don't think he did it. And I do think they were coercing. But the fact that he said what they wanted him to, it was like, dude, just shut up. Just stop talking. You're so weird. Just stop.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, yeah, he said this stuff, but I don't know. These detectives were on my list kind of from the jump. And there was multiple things they did, and this was one of them. This was one of them.
They were, what do we say?
Dinguses?
They were dinguses, Kurt.
Yeah. And it was in classic cop ways that really get under my skin because we see it so much. I think sometimes. How long do you think that interview was? It was probably like 5 hours, right?
You could tell me it was 15 hours.
Yeah.
I'd believe it.
Yeah. Oh, wait. But AC says, do I say it now? I'm going to say it now. Maybe I cut it out. But AC called that Thanksgiving dinner thing straight out of a Norman Bates playbook. Now, the significance of calling out Norman Bates is known and will be discussed later. But I was sitting there hooping and hollering going, AC!
See?
Love it.
AC thinks it's creepy. She agrees with me.
I disagree with both of you. I think you're both overreacting a little bit about him. I have already regretted saying overreacting. Can I take that back, Kate? Can I take it back?
You can't call on the day.
Yeah.
You have to ask her earlier in the week when you saw her at work. Hey, what are your Thanksgiving plans?
Yeah, and guess what, dude? If she says, oh, I don't have any, I'm so bummed. Now's your chance. Now's when you say, well, guess what?
And you say, I'm making food. If you feel like it, come by and help me eat it.
Yeah.
I'll just be hanging out. Whatevs. Not, I won't make something for you.
But I will not tell you until 4 p.m. on Thursday. Please be by your phone.
He's talking about rape. I mean, that's scary stuff right there.
Exactly.
Sorry, this is my last thing about the Eric thing. You kind of touched on this. But the cops do what they call, we've heard this before too, where it's like an imagining or a dream admission thing where they go, how would you imagine someone killed her?
Yes.
And he said, well, they probably tackled her and poked her and stabbed her. And wouldn't you know, she was stabbed to death. Oh yeah, sounds like it was him. He's the only person who would say I stabbed her. Get the right? I mean, come on.
I agree. I think in this case, though, Kurt, both things can be true. Dude's a creep, and the cops are dinguses.
Yes. Okay. You know what? I agree with that 1,000%.
How would you contain her? How would this person kill her? Take her down when she was tired. Then he just poked her, do whatever. Stab her, cut her throat, or...
In fact, that's how Corey was killed.
Okay, so Eric, as much as those cops want it to be Eric, they got to admit, it sounds like it wasn't him. Boy, he's weird. Well, we will probably be dealing with him down the line for something else, but he is innocent in this affair. Mm-hmm. Now they turn their eyes towards Tiffany, a new friend of Corey's. Tell us about Tiffany, Kate. This is what I'm leading up to, what made me the most upset.
Okay.
Just warn you.
So Tiffany, like you said, is a new friend. They've been getting really close and hanging out a lot, and they would, I forget, they didn't work together?
No, I think they might have met at bars, and they like to go party and stuff.
They were in the bar scene together. Yeah, they would hang out at bars, and they hadn't known each other too long, but they had become really, really close. on Thanksgiving, actually, Tiffany had invited Corey to stop by her parents' house if she needed somewhere to go, and she thought that she might. And when she didn't show up, she was like really bummed out because she was super excited to hang out and have her there for the holiday. And AC and the cops both were like, sounds like you really liked her. Like a lot.
Yeah.
Like maybe you were kind of obsessed.
The cops are straight up saying that. They called it a little strange. She was infatuated with her is what they said.
Well, we were just basically told that it was bordering on a little strange, with what we'd heard about her statements about how much she cared about Corey.
Now, this is because she's going around talking about how much she loved Corey. Well, spoiler alert, they were close friends. I love my friends, right? And if they died, I'd still love them. Not weird. And they're hearing that she knows a lot of details about the crime or something. Now, those are what the cops tell themselves when they go to bed at night of why they were so focused on Tiffany, okay? But I've got my own theory of what a dingus cop in 1998 thought. He saw a woman with short hair and who was big boned and was like, this lady's a lesbian. I felt like that was them instantly being like, it's her. It's got to be her. Right?
Well, she didn't have short hair then.
Yes, she did. It wasn't as short as it was now, but it was short. Absolutely. It was like a Katie Couric.
A Katie Couric? Like a bob?
No, I'm talking a certain era of Katie Couric, so that doesn't help. But no, it was still short hair. It wasn't like long and stuff. It wasn't bob. It was shorter than a bob.
Okay. Well, AC really pushes her on it.
They want to talk to you, detectives?
We all write a statement.
Well, they wanted to talk to you.
Absolutely.
And says, like, okay, but how can you prove that you weren't romantically interested in her? And Tiffany's like, because I'm not gay.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, sure, Jan.
Kate, I was suspecting you'd be thinking that. I was suspecting that.
I think she is, but also, who cares?
Yeah.
She didn't kill her. And also, this is what I was talking about at the beginning, where they're suspects. I wanted to know more. Tiffany was at her family's Thanksgiving. She wasn't unaccounted for. They didn't, the whole thing with her phone records. So Tiffany says that the night that she parted ways with Corey at 1, about an hour later, she, I guess, from a payphone at a bar.
No, from her place. She went home. Tiffany called Corey at 2:15 a.m. and did not get an answer.
She didn't get an answer. And the cops say she's lying because Corey's phone records don't show that call ever coming through. But I'm thinking, but did you check Tiffany's phone records?
Great cue, Kate. That's what I wanted to freaking know. That's what I wanted to know.
Because we know that happens all the time where it's like, I'll make a phone call. Granted, cell phones are different. I'll make a phone call. It's ringing. And then my friend will be like, you didn't call me. I don't have a missed call. I don't have anything.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I got your voicemail and it rang and everything. And I have it in my call log.
Yeah, I thought that same thing too. I was like, this is very easy to solve, dinguses. Just ask, you're already going to get a court order to get her DNA. Why not get a warrant for her phone records? This will solve it right here and now.
Because she didn't do it.
She definitely didn't do it. And let me ask you this. If she did do it, what would be the benefit of saying, I called her the night I killed her? I called her the night I killed her, but I really didn't. Why would, what's the play there? What do you think?
And for all of these suspects, even though we're not finished going through them, they never checked their hands.
That's true.
Or their bodies for any, because we know that when there's a stabbing, especially 101 times, the hand slips and everyone always gets cut.
Absolutely.
And
that's a great point too.
Later, they found blood in the kitchen that wasn't hers. So we know the killer got cut.
Yeah.
But they're not checking anyone's hands. And you know Tiffany's hands are completely fine.
Yeah.
Because she didn't do it.
Yeah. She had moved to New Orleans, and it's 5 months after the murder. And the cops were like, oh, it's weird she moved to New Orleans. Let's go talk to her.
Why would that be weird?
Yeah. So that's not weird at all. And they want to talk to her. And at this point, she's a full-on suspect. And so she lures up. And this was another thing where it's classic dingus verbiage. When he goes, wait, I wrote it down. Hang on.
She at some point decided she wasn't going to cooperate further and referred us to her lawyer.
Shut the up, dingus. Shut up. You know what I'm talking about? Like, she at some point decided she's not going to talk to us anymore. Maybe because she already talked to you and it's 5 months later and you think that she killed her because she didn't make a phone call, supposedly.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it either. Well, you know, I never would have done it from the beginning without a lawyer.
Right, of course.
But this was a long time ago and things were different.
Boy, I didn't realize it'd be getting so heated this ep, but I was mad at these dinguses for all this stuff.
And then Tiffany has to defend herself again to AC by being like, my lawyer says it's actually pretty common that phone records don't always show when calls come in.
Yeah, I felt bad for her too because AC's talking to her, and she goes, yeah, and we were getting closer. And because of this nightmare that she had to deal with, Tiffany has to double back on that and say, well, I know I was growing close to her. I can't say the same for her. Like, now she feels she has to, like, second guess all the ways that she talks about how she was close to Corey. It's kind of sad.
Your relationship kept getting closer and closer?
Yes. Well, on my part, yes. I can't answer for Corey, but yes, from my vantage point.
I mean, I do think that she was maybe in love with her.
Oh, and also she had a friend or a relative that was one of the EMTs that came and picked her up. That's how she knew those details.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Not because she was a murderer.
Yeah. But so they get the court order to get her DNA and blood swabs. So while that's doing its thing at the labs, the cops are spinning their wheels. And I want to say 1.5 years passes. Is that true?
Who's to say?
This is when the quote-unquote fugitive specialist is introduced, William. Kate just rolled her eyes, something sick.
What?
You want to talk about this guy?
What was this guy's deal?
I mean, I guess we got to give him credit, because he did. This guy, William, he was teased at the beginning. AC is talking to him on the water and stuff. And he and his friends were sitting around just talking about whatever, and they remembered this case of something that happened to Corey Parker. He just gets a bug where he's like, I want to, like, double-check the police's work. Right? And so he just goes back to the neighbors and finds out stuff. And he finds out that, hey, there's this guy named, he's a bounty hunter, and he just wanted to see what the cops had missed. Turns out they missed another suspect.
Oh, but he doesn't, he does not identify as a bounty hunter.
Of course not.
Kurt. He made that very clear.
I've been called bounty hunter before, but I prefer fugitive specialist.
Fugitive specialist, okay.
But they're not a fugitive yet.
Good point.
A fugitive is when you're on the run from the law, when you've already been accused of something.
Yeah, good point.
I was not impressed by this man.
Me neither. But we got to give him some credit because he goes, hey, what's up with this Robert Denny guy that lived nearby? He lived right by Corey. I mean, you see at one point it says behind, but he was on top and over, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So, like, it wasn't across the way or whatever. They were 3 feet away from each other, the balcony to the kitchen window.
Yes, his back balcony was 3 feet from her kitchen window, and he could easily see in from his apartment balcony. You could see into that apartment.
Yeah, so he's probably like leaning over, looking down or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's probably not seeing a bunch. But he's looking good for it. But the cops at the time let him go because he was 17. They probably said something real smart, like he's too young to commit this murder.
He'd been questioned and dismissed by detectives early on, in part because he was so young.
We've seen that before.
Absolutely we have, like the zombie hunter. So they cut him loose and didn't even think about him. But then this fugitive specialist is getting beers with his bros, and they go, wait a minute, I worked with the Robert Denny. He was a total creep.
Yeah, and he remembered Robert Denny talking to his coworkers about how he would spy on his neighbor from his balcony into her kitchen. Yeah. And he's out there in the dark looking at her washing dishes and just jerking it.
Oh, absolutely. We talked to his sister, because his sister was still in town. He had left right after the murder because his son died and he had to go to Texas. Now, the fugitive specialist did some digging. He doesn't have a son.
No, of course not.
Okay. So no son died or anything. But he had moved to Texas, and then later they find out from his sister that he moved to Maryland to live with a woman he met online. And the sister has some stuff to say, too. This sister is primed for an Evil Lives Here. Okay? She's dishing out what is classic Evil Lives Here stuff, where she's like, we used to call him the Night Creeper. What'd you think of this?
She said that sometimes she would find him in the middle of the night standing over her bed staring at her. Psycho style. We've seen that 1,000,000 times.
Yeah, absolutely. We just saw it in The Axeman Cometh.
I mean, that's like Murderer 101.
Yeah, sociopath stuff where it's like, that's the first step of like, I can pretend this person's dead right now. Mm-hmm. And then the escalation is, I'm going to ask them to play dead. Let's just make them dead. That's the next step.
She had woken up before and he was staring at her.
Yeah, so that's creepy. And I love the detective going, she said that she called him a night creeper. And that's because he would creep around at night.
Wow. Great insight. Thank you.
Thanks for the definition.
AC's like,
oh yeah.
Tell me more.
She called him a night creeper. And she said that he would creep around the house at night.
At this point, William, the specialist, calls the cops and go, hey, you should take another look at this guy. And I guess let's give the cops credit for this. They took the advice and actually did their job for once, I guess, right? So bravo, detectives, that they didn't just tell this guy to go screw. They were like, okay, we will look into it. And this is when we're finding out, this guy's real good for it.
So they got to get his DNA in order to test it against the evidence.
Yeah, you're right. So, because they have the DNA of the killer, but they have nothing to match it to. So they've got to find out where Denny is and go to him and get his DNA. So they make the trek to Maryland, right?
They do. And they bring him in officially for an interview, but they say it's about something else, like some kind of bar fight or something that he may have been witness to, which is weird, because wouldn't he be like, I didn't see a bar fight, I don't know what you're talking about. But, I mean, these people are dumb. They're dumb. But they bring him in, they're trying to get his DNA while asking him some real softballs, and he's smoking a cigarette.
Yep.
And they're like, when he puts that cigarette out in the ashtray, we're going to take it.
Yeah, they're going, this is it, this case. We're the spider, and he's walking into our web.
But you know what, Kurt? He finished that cigarette, and he put it behind his ear.
Disgusting, for one.
Disgusting, but smart.
Right, well, okay, so he puts the cigarette behind the ear. So they go, shoot, plan A, out the window. What's plan B? Yes, water bottle.
Yep.
Okay, so here I am. I'm sliding the water over to you, the dude they're talking to. What's he do with this water bottle, Kate?
He basically just looks at it and never touches it. He doesn't open it, doesn't even acknowledge it. And they're like, all right.
0 for 2. 0 for 2.
So then they're having him sign some routine paperwork, basically like, thanks for coming in, sign here, blah, 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 which is not really a thing.
That's not a thing, and neither is the part where they asked him to put it in envelopes. This was like, dude, you guys... If you think your cover was blown before, it's over now.
But, you know, we have seen this before.
Where it worked?
Where the person licked the envelopes and they were able to get something, but it didn't end up proving their guilt. That person wasn't the killer in the end. But I have seen this before.
Oh, I've seen DNA off an envelope, definitely. But I thought it was like one that they find somewhere. I don't remember it being a DNA sting in the room. I'll
have to find where it is, because I know I've seen this at least once.
Okay.
And maybe I'm actually just thinking of this.
It might be this one. Yeah.
But he doesn't lick those envelopes, Kurt. He signs those forms, folds them up, puts them in, and he's like, all right, you guys can lick them. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
You have tried 3 times now to get my DNA. And they're like, oh, shit, we're caught.
This I love.
Which, doesn't that prove his guilt?
It does, pretty much. You're right there. Because you know how I feel about these dinguses? I kind of like that they were so obvious in their ploys and they got straight up busted. And also, look, spoiler alert, they're going to win the next game they play with this guy.
They are.
Okay? So in this moment, I could be like, take that, you idiots. Like, the envelope thing was just a stretch for me. I was like, guys. But dude calls him out in the moment and says, you tried 3 times. It's not happening. I'm out of here.
And he looks at us and says, you guys have tried 3 separate times to get my DNA. You can seal them yourself. Is there anything else?
So now...
It was impressive considering this was still a really long time ago. I mean, DNA was more established, but we really only saw it because of CSI. And I don't know how long CSI had been on the air at this point. This is like 5 years after. So
no, I think it might be 2 years or something. It might be like 2000, dude.
So it's 2000. I mean, that is early for someone to know all the tricks of DNA catching.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Sounds like you watched FF, because there were hella FFs out by 2000 that covered that. So that's...
I mean, it sounds like he knew how to cover his tracks because he was guilty.
That too. But the cops are determined. They're not giving up. I'll tell you what they're not doing. They're not going home yet either. They stake his ass out at work. We see pictures of this dude smoking cigs. And what's he do on these breaks? But put it out, put it behind his ear, and go back to work. God, I hope he wasn't working like retail or food or something.
He must have seen them watching him. Or he just knew wherever he went if he was going to smoke.
I mean, people...
Wouldn't you also be paranoid about them going through your trash then?
Yeah. Now, look, it's possible that he didn't finish the cigarette and he's saving the rest for later. That, like, people who do not have a never-ending cigarette supply will do this. And they'll look for stubs and stuff. They'll look for the shorties or whatever. Like, that's a thing, okay?
It's disgusting.
So it could be that he's like, I'm saving those puffs for after. But anyway, so he's still taking his cigs. But what does he do, Kate? And they're pumped, right? They're over there high-fiving. What does he do? How does our boy slip up?
Out on another break, he does something else that's really gross, and I hate when people do this. He spits right on the ground. He hops big loogies, and they're like, here we go. And as soon as that dude goes inside, the cops run over to his little spit pile, and they get a sample.
Yep, I loved this. And AC was like, oh, there's DNA in spit. There's DNA in spit.
We know, girl.
Spit has DNA in it.
And we were jumping for joy at that point.
Now, they still can't find it in hair unless there's the bulb at the end, right? Like but it's wild, it's in spit. Does that feel weird or no?
No.
But not in the hair?
A bodily fluid feels like it's got more cells than a little hair, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not a scientist.
But yeah, that was crazy. So now they got it. And they send this off, and what do you know? It friggin' matches.
Matches.
And does it match 2 ways or something like that?
They tested 2 different times, 2 different labs.
Right. And they had his blood matched and his finger, like all the stuff they had of the killer matched his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this was great too. This is what I was thinking about. The cops are eager to press charges and arrest him. The DA says, not so fast.
We wanted to go get him then. And prosecutor Angela Corey said, no.
He can come up with a story to explain that DNA away.
She has the detective go to him and say, look, great news. We solved the case. Turns out you weren't the killer. That's on us. Okay? RB. Just to clear some stuff up. Do you mind answering me a few questions? And if he knew about the water bottle and the cigarette butt and the envelope, he should have known this. That when a cop asks you about this murder they think you did, if they're asking you, hey, have you ever been to her house or met her? Do not say no. Say, I was best friends with her and I went to her house all the time, right?
Yes.
That's the play here because they're so adamant. No, I didn't know her at all. I didn't know her at all. And the detective's going, okay, no, N-O, no, okay.
She really did spell out no.
It was so good. She really, was really driving it home. Like, let's just make sure we're clear here. Tap, tap, tap on the mic.
All he had to say was, yeah, she was my neighbor. We would be in each other's apartments every now and then if I was borrowing something or helping her fix something, and she would feed my cat or whatever. You bullshit. There's no one there to say otherwise.
Yeah.
Do you know Corey Parker or ever talk to her? No. Okay. No.
Instead, he's super dumb, and he says, no, I've never met her, never touched her or anything. And they go, well, good news. Get the cuffs. You're arrested for murder. And they arrest him, and they go to trial. His stupid-ass defense attorney is like, there was other semen in there, and there was other hair. I'm like, dude, but we've got all these matches over here, bro, so I'm not sure what you're getting at. But he tries to play dumb at the trial, doesn't he? And we see him, and he looks like a total goober.
He does.
Doesn't he look like a goober?
Honestly, I felt like he did a good job in those interrogations and at the trial of looking like really innocent and just overwhelmed and like confused. I mean, the jury wasn't buying it, but for a second, from what I saw, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, if you didn't know the details of the context, if you just saw him, you'd be like, that guy doesn't really look like he could hurt anybody. He looks really scared and confused.
Yeah. That's true. And that's the way AC kind of frames it. And they're like, but the jury wasn't buying it because they deliberated for an hour. And we're like, oh, no, he's guilty as hell.
He did it.
Okay. Get him out of here.
Guilty of first-degree murder. Denny was sentenced to life in prison.
And this was wild, too. This is a hell of a shorty because we've got this DNA hunt. We've got multiple ways, like multiple levels to a DNA hunt. And then friggin' AC goes to talk to this Joker in jail years later. Mm-hmm. So now we got the killer on cam just being so f***ing stupid. And AC's really giving it to him too, huh?
Oh, yeah. She was kind of brutal in a great way.
In a great way.
His whole thing was like, look, my brother is in prison for murder. That doesn't mean that I'm a murderer. And everyone's theory is kind of like, well, actually, it might because you admired your brother and you wanted to see what that would be like. It would explain being a night creeper. You're trying to get into the mindset of your brother and how he was able to do that, and then you did it.
And then also the brother's kill was a stabbing with 96 stab wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And now little bro does it in 101 stab wounds. That does kind of make you a killer, dude. Sorry.
It does.
I don't know.
And these two dudes look a lot alike.
They sure do. We see a mugshot of his brother.
We see the mugshot, and then when we see him in the interview, he's about the same, closer to the age that the brother was in the mugshot, and they look so similar. And AC is like, okay, let me get this straight. So you think you're innocent and that you have been framed.
Yeah, by both the police and 2 separate labs. She really makes this clear,
yes.
I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And he's like...
And what does he say? He thinks about it?
He thinks for a second. He's like,
yeah.
The police have framed you, and 2 separate crime labs have contaminated the evidence.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the case. And he said this twice, and I hated him for it. His AC would be like, why would 2 separate labs and the cops pick you out of obscurity and to try and pin this on you? And he goes, hey, if I knew the answer to that, I wouldn't be in here. Snooze. I'm rolling my eyes at that. And he says it again later to another AC question. Like, AC's like, why would they do that to you? Hey, if I knew that, I wouldn't be in here. So, like, get me out of here and we'll talk.
It doesn't make any sense. It's not an answer.
If I knew, I wouldn't be here.
It's not an answer at all. And this guy's a real dummy. So you think there's a possibility he didn't do it, Kate? I mean, come on.
No. But I think there's a lot of other missing information here. Like talking about the phone records, talking about that other DNA in her room. I'm sure it was her boyfriend's or a friend or whatever. Like, we don't know, but they didn't tell us.
Right. Now, look, do you think this was a former fatty and that's what got cut out? This could have been a fatty.
It could have been. It wasn't making me think of other parts that were missing. I mean, I've seen this multiple times and I wasn't like, what about that whole thing? But it's been a while.
Yeah, I remember the Tiffany stuff about the friend because I was furious about that back in the day too. And then all the movie stuff, the Rear Window and Hitchcock of it all. I mean, I remember all that stuff because I've also got some issues with that. But before we go to those lists...
That is a misuse, yes.
Before we go to those lists, I just want to say they were so hung up on the fact that Tiffany said that she called the night she was murdered, but she didn't. But like I said, that Amy friend said that she talked to her on Thanksgiving.
And she didn't.
And she didn't. So why aren't you just as suspicious of her? Because she has long hair and stuff. Because she's not what you think is what I think, dude. What do you think?
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We got information missing.
Straight up.
But that dude did do it.
He did. And I hope he's real bummed and stuff in jail. Oh, my brother. Oh. All right. Well, it's on to those lists. What do you got?
Kate's unnamed list. We got ourselves a Florida connection.
Straight up.
And
Straight up.
Isn't it so...
I mean, big one. I mean, it's set in Florida.
Isn't it so classic Florida that there's a girl who's murdered in her apartment and there's like 3 or 4 creepy dudes circling her that could have done it?
Yes.
Because we're still not sure who the peeping Tom was.
Yeah.
He's just a different person. So she's got at least 2 dudes peering into her apartment.
Yeah.
Who knows how many more.
And a guy at work making dinner, calling her day of.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. What else you got?
That's it. But it's a big one because we haven't had a Florida connection in a while.
No. And when I was watching old ones, this was the first one I picked. It was a pretty good pick for a first watch because the first Florida thing happened. I said I'm in. Then her Keith VO stuff. I said okay, keep talking. And then first thing, let's go to Kurt's Kick-Ass List.
Kick-Ass List.
Hella movie stuff here, okay, and it's all pretty Hitchcock themed. One, the title episode, Rear Window. I love it. But when she says out of a Norman Bates playbook, that's a Hitchcock film, but it's Psycho.
That's a different Hitchcock.
It's a different Hitchcock movie, but it's still Hitchcock.
What the dishwasher did next was a move straight out of a Norman Bates playbook.
And now this is where I'm going to get a little knitting and picking on my girl AC. She goes straight out of Hitchcock's Rear Window. Killer, the guy climbs in through the window to kill her. And I'm going to go,
that's not what happened in Rear Window.
That's not what happened. Jimmy Stewart was injured in watching things unfold, and the killer went in through her door to her apartment to do the killing. No one actually went in or out the windows whatsoever.
No, he's just watching it all through the window.
Yeah.
It was something straight out of Hitchcock. A rear window, a vulnerable young woman, a man watching, seeing but unseen.
So that I was like, okay, that's a little iffy there, AC.
I don't know that she's seen it.
No, come on.
Because that movie's very famous and everybody knows the plot.
That could be a movie that someone is convinced they've seen it just because it's so in the culture. But I bet if she sat down, she'd go, wait a minute, Jimmy Stewart didn't kill her? Wait, what?
He can't get out of his wheelchair.
Yeah. Hey, that's another movie that he gets the bad guy away with taking flashes.
Yeah.
Right? We were looking for one. Silence of the Lambs, also in Rear Window.
You're right.
So that was another Patreon tease. Okay, so that's 2 things. Bunch of movie stuff. Name of the episode is a third because it's called Rear Window. And you know that episode poster is going to be Rear Window. You know it. This one was good too. This one is not... Okay, AC said this was after they asked for somebody's DNA. AC goes...
So this wasn't solved after the commercial break.
Oh no.
She did say that.
That's kind of Murph Doggian a little, because it's like, what does it mean? I get what she's going for.
It did seem very Murph. It did.
Yeah. What she's saying is, DNA results don't come back that fast. I think that's the point she's making, but it was very Murph Doggian.
Yeah.
I believe that's it. But I thought this was a fun as hell ep. Great for a From the Vault. You got anything else to add here, Kate?
No, I think this is a good one.
Last week I was suspicious about it being new because I said TV Guide said it would be new. I mean, we're straight up in rerun land now. We're going to get an occasional new one, but start peeping them Vault eps, I feel. Because we're going to do this until October, bro. Right?
Yeah.
We didn't know this last year because we were busy catching up.
You're right. I think you're right, though. This was a fatty.
I'd just like to give a tiff out to Shoutney. I'd like to give a tiff out to Shoutney real quick. Okay, I'd like to give a shout out to Tiffany. AC's like, hey, did this like ruin your life? She's like, yeah, it kind of did. It made me drink more, and it sucked, and I'm just now getting my life back. So my heart goes out to Tiffany, obviously the family of Corey here.
I tried looking Tiffany up, and I couldn't find her anywhere. I feel like
really
she was not kidding when she said this may have ruined her life. She's not on socials, not on LinkedIn, nowhere to be found.
Wow, yeah, that's sad. Anyway, I hope this detective knows what a dingus he is. And on that note, I'm Kurt Money.
I'm Kateline.
I'm Lester Holt. For all of us, I'm Lester Holt. Good night.
You're missing the part about the landlord.